All right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kate DeCesare. I'm a Green Business Advisor with Washington County's Green Business Leaders Program, and today we're discussing green schools. So we're going to do introductions in the chat, and this is optional, but if you'd like to share your name, organization, and your favorite thing to do in spring, please do. My colleague Jennifer will be adding her intro to the chat in just a second, and you can use hers as an example. So before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. Please mute your mic until the Q&A portion of the presentation, and you can unmute to ask questions at that time, or you can use the chat function to ask questions throughout the presentation and during the Q&A portion. Feel free to turn your camera on or off. And for best viewing of the presentation, we recommend using the side-by-side mode or docking participants to the side or bottom of the screen. My email address is right there on the screen. And feel free to reach out if you have questions or feedback. And we will be sending out an email to everybody that's registered with a PDF of the presentations. Spanish interpretation is available for today's webinar. So to hear this presentation in Spanish, you click on the interpretation link in the bottom right of the Zoom toolbar, and you'll have the option to click in to join the Spanish interpretation room, and then you're welcome to go back and forth between the rooms anytime that you wish. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Sasha from the Oregon Green Schools team to get us started.
Thanks, Kate. All right. Can everyone see that all right? Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Sasha Swerdloff, and I'm the program manager at Oregon Green Schools. And Oregon Green Schools activates climate and sustainability leadership by providing an inclusive network and resources for students, schools, and communities. And I wanted to list our values as well. We value environmental stewardship, collective accountability and integrity, collaborative leadership, pragmatic optimism, holistic community engagement, and ongoing growth. And our programming includes certification, events such as our annual Student Summit, learning resources, technical assistance provided by our 20 volunteer regional coordinators, and funding opportunities for our students and schools. As you can see by this map, we operate across the state. The majority of our schools are located in the I-5 corridor, and we're really hoping to expand this coming year into the Coast region and Eastern Oregon. And this map shows currently certified schools and also schools that are in progress. We have 105 certified schools and 73 in progress. So before we go into our programming in more detail, we wanted to share a case study with you. This is a video that Highland Elementary School in Gresham put together for our 2019 summit. And we feel like it does a good job of showing how our programming helps green teams and schools identify and achieve their climate and sustainability goals. One thing that's unique about Highland is that they have a really robust network of teachers and parents who keep this green team thriving, and they've really created a culture of sustainability school-wide. So I'm going to share this video, and if you can't hear it, let me know.
I heard the intro music, but I can't hear the kids talking.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, maybe because I muted myself. Let me start it over for you.
Hi, my name is Josie. Hi, my name is Asher. We are two members of our green team at Highland Elementary School in Gresham, Oregon. We became a green school last year and it feels great. We're still working hard with those projects. Oh, yes, last year. Attention Highland Huskies. Clean Sweep Don't forget to reuse the glue. If you don't know where something goes, put it in the wonder box.
Don't forget to compost.
Congratulations, Mrs. Frisbee's class. You won the Energy Star last month. Remember, Huskies, go green! But this year, we have made the commitment to reduce, reuse, and recycle even more water, energy, and waste in order to create awareness and make our school and community a healthier environment for all. This year, we have launched a few projects to encourage others to help us reduce, reuse, and recycle. Oh yeah, like our share table in the cafeteria, classroom composting, waste-free lunches, shake and fold paper towels, soft plastic challenge, crayon craze, and wow, I did not realize how much we already accomplished. Hey friends. Hey, where do you guys got the healthy snacks? We got them from the share table in the cafeteria. Anything students do not eat can be placed so others can have a snack. When you are finished, you can compost it in any bin around school. Each classroom has one. Gio, I heard you just went to prep school. Yeah, we learned about how our food and the environment are connected so we can teach others at school how to reduce waste, water, and energy. What are you going to share with us school next? We just learned how to create waste-free lunches. We challenge ourselves to encourage others to pack lunches that result in adding zero trash to our bin. Oh yeah, I did that home with my family. I reused our jam jar for my juice. I also used our old butter container for my pasta in my lunch bag. I love how we're learning how to take care of the earth right here at home and school. Did you know that 13 billion pounds of paper towels go into the landfill each year in the United States? Yeah, and they're not recyclable. Seems like a waste to me.
Friends, that is why we taught our school how to shake and fold. Just by reducing our paper towels from 3 to 1 towels each time, we're saving our natural resources.
And creating less waste. Genius, we are saving beauty one forest at a time. We have reduced and reused more this year than just paper towels.
Refresh my mind, please.
Oh yeah, remember when we saved the school from wasting all of those broken crowns? I think that was my favorite project this year. Yay! I can't believe Earth Day is already here. I know, we still have so much more to learn and teach our school about recycling. Isn't our soft plastic challenge over on Earth Day? Yep, my family is amazed at how much we recycled this year. They didn't know that you can't put soft plastic into the same bin. Well, now we know. Now we can make better choices about where we put our trash. Right on, Anna. Knowing what's put where is important. Remember, if in doubt, ask someone else. Like who? Well, Kimberly, you can ask your parents, teachers, friends, Mrs. Emma, and even Google.
All right. Oh no. How come it won't let me get to the next slide now? There we go. Okay. So we wanted to share some more detail about our certification tracks with you all. They cover a range of sustainability areas, as you can see here. Our waste, reuse, and recycling track focuses on encouraging creative reuse of school materials and preventing contamination. Our green lunchrooms track measures cafeteria waste and focuses on implementing things like share tables and switching from durables, from disposables to durables. And our walk and roll to school track has students track how students and parents and teachers are getting to school and make a plan to increase safe walking and rolling. Gardens and Grounds track, which we developed in collaboration with Eco Schools USA and Growing Gardens, assesses wildlife habitat conditions around the school grounds. And we recently launched our energy track, which we developed with the Oregon Department of Energy and the New Buildings Institute. And this track has students measure energy use in schools from lighting to heating and cooling to plug loads and appliances and beyond. Our water conservation track is currently under development, so stay tuned for that. And finally, we recently launched an at-home certification program. We wanted to provide something that would allow students to bring their sustainability learning home And we provide self-guided learning resources, simple DIY sustainability activities that students can do with their families, and then a sustainability pledge that students would complete to set goals for making changes within their household. And there are 6 project areas based on these 6 certification tracks that they can choose from. And each application, each certification covers the same format. And it starts with an investigation and interview. The goal with this is we really wanted students to engage in the certification process. So this gets students learning from the people in their school who are handling resources, finding out how those resources are handled, and really talking to their custodians, their nutrition services providers, folks like that. Each certification track also includes an audit where we ask students to measure resources that are being wasted. And this is mostly so that they have a baseline from which to develop their goals and action plan so that they have some data. The application also includes a Green School Spotlight. The idea with this is we really want to encourage green teams to make sustainability a whole school culture. So we're asking them to share out what they're working on with the whole school to inspire other students and get everyone involved. And finally, the application also includes a goals and action plan section. And we ask them to develop short and long-term goals that they can work on. And they reassess those goals annually. So we recently switched from a tiered certification system to a badge system because we wanted to acknowledge that sustainability isn't linear. Some schools might have access to more resources when it comes to environmental education and programming. So our new badge system recognizes schools for certifying in our 6 areas. And each time they certify, they'll receive a pink badge on our website and on their certificate. This is an example of what the certificates look like. And we encourage schools to work towards collecting all 6 badges. Our certifications are valid for 3 years. And in order to recertify, we just ask green teams to complete a quick check-in questionnaire to gauge their progress towards those short and long-term goals and set new goals so that they can continue working and evolving. So another thing that we offer as part of our certification is co-certification with Eco Schools USA. And we've partnered with Eco Schools and National Wildlife Federation since 2012 to provide co-certification in our waste reuse and recycling. There we go. And in our gardens and grounds tracks. The process to co-certify is fairly simple. Part of that includes having schools set up a dashboard page with Eco Schools USA. This is a public page where schools can share their sustainability accomplishments. And this is a sample from Jesuit, and Morgan has put together a wonderful guide, a document that provides instructions on how to set up these pages, how to update things. And so I'll share that in the chat when I'm done presenting in case anyone's interested in that document. So another thing that OGS provides is resources. We provide learning resources throughout each application, and we have a learning resource page on our website, and we have them sorted by topic. There's, the top 3 to 5 resources, as well as a more resources document that's crowdsourced. And we're constantly updating that document and adding new resources to that. It includes funding opportunities for schools, field trip ideas, partner organizations, and curriculum. So how can you get involved with OGS? You can become a green school on our website. You can request an application, check out our certification tracks, and get started. You can subscribe to our newsletter. That's a monthly newsletter, and we share learning resources, events, and other opportunities there. You can also sign up on our website for that. We also recently launched a membership program. So if you are a parent or a teacher, you can become a member of OGS and gain access to special learning resources, activities, and events, and network with others. And we're also currently participating in the Earth Day Oregon campaign. So if you're a business, we are looking for business partners to support us with cash or in-kind donations. So if you're interested in that, you can contact Kirsty Marion, our Strategic Partnerships Director. Her email is listed there. And finally, to celebrate Earth Day, we are having an Earth Day event, and we would love to have you all join us. It's on April 20th at 4:30 on Zoom. And we have special guests from Free Geek and Refed joining us to share e-waste tips and a food waste cooking demo. So it's going to be really fun, and we hope you'll join us. I'll add the link to register in the chat as well for that. And if you have questions or want to get in touch with us, there's our email, or you can find all of this information on the website as well. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sasha. That was great. And remember, if you have questions, you can just add them into the chat, and we have some time saved at the end that we'll get to those. Next up, we have Morgan Parks from the National Wildlife Federation, who will share about their EcoSchool USA related programs and resources that are available for teachers and green teams.
Thank you, Kate and Sasha. Okay, can everyone see that?
Not yet. Oh, it's loaded.
Now can you see it?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. All right, well, hi there, I'm Morgan Parks again with National Wildlife Federation. I'm going to talk about NWF's EcoSchools and Fish Eggs to Fry collaboration. A little about EcoSchools. It's the largest global sustainable school program spanning 69 countries. NWF was granted host status in 2008 as the national operator in the United States. More than 10 years later, we have over 5,000 schools engaged, including over 370 in Oregon. Many of those, of course, are Oregon Green Schools. EcoSchools is a holistic whole school approach that provides multidisciplinary and project-based STEM learning, empowering students in sustainability and greening schools inside and out. It also complements other green school programs such as Oregon Green Schools, which you already heard about, or also something like Green Ribbon Schools. It's correlated with NGSS, and we have a 7-step framework that helps guide educators through the self-guided process. So you can see here that the EcoSchools program has 12 pathways of sustainability, also called environmental focus areas, that schools can choose to work on. You already heard about 2 from Oregon Green Schools that we partner on, and now I'll be focusing on another, the watersheds, oceans, and wetlands pathway, also called WOW, that schools can earn a bronze, silver, or green flag award in. Through the WOW pathway, students increase their knowledge and begin developing a conservation and stewardship mindset about watersheds as natural resources. They do this through Fish to Fry. This program fosters salmon or trout in classroom aquariums, which become living laboratories, and students really transform into scientists. They learn about the fish life cycle, about their local watershed and the ecosystem and habitat needs of salmon and trout, and so much more. Student interest in conservation is sparked. Fish Eggs to Fry can instill a sense of wildlife empathy, which ultimately can help develop the next generation of conservation stewards. History and cultural relevance to the Native and Indigenous peoples is often explored, an important part of the salmon story in the Pacific Northwest. Fish Eggs to Fry really inspires fun learning opportunities that students remember for years to come, from a field trip to a local hatchery to creating their own fish print. Fish Eggs to Fry is a program of Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, or ODFW, and it's part of their STEP program, which stands for Salmon and Trout Enhancement Program. So ODFW provides the salmon and trout eggs for classrooms to foster. They regulate which waterways the fry can be released into. They provide resources and coordinate other logistics. So Jonathan Cox is the local STEP biologist for the Lower Willamette region, which we're all in. And he's based in Clackamas. He has the most classrooms participating in the state, which fluctuates from approximately 150 to about 200 classrooms in a typical year for the greater Portland metro region. We're also number 2 in the nation for participation. I think we're just behind California. I do want to acknowledge that there are many partners and organizations that are involved or supporting Fish Eggs to Fry and other salmon education programs, including Clean Water Services, Metro, the Oregon Zoo, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, OSU Extension, Salmon Watch, many tribes, watershed councils, and soil and water conservation districts, and others too. It truly takes a village. And this photo here is from back in November on Egg Delivery Day. There's a steelheader volunteer on the left, Deshaun Berry with Get Hooked. You may know him. And then that's my AmeriCorps member, Christina Peterson, in the middle. And she's also here on the call today. And then that is John Cox there on the right, the STEP biologist with ODFW. So the Association of Northwest Steelheaders are a fishing advocacy organization. This is a photo of the Tualatin Valley chapter, which is the most active steelheaders chapter engaged in assisting with Fish Eggs to Fry in the Portland metro area. And Leroy Schultz is the lead and very well known by many schools in Washington County. He assists with tank setup and troubleshooting and coordinates other volunteers to help out with fry release field trips, such as those with Clean Water Services. The steelheaders share an AmeriCorps member with National Wildlife Federation with me, who coordinates volunteers and matches them to schools according to the egg request applications that come in. So next I'll talk about the connection with NWF's Eco Schools USA program. And at the end, I'll share some of the links with some of the documents that I'll be referencing. So NWF has integrated its Eco Schools program with Fish Eggs to Fry through a guiding document that includes an audit, action plan, and appendix that connects fostering salmon and trout activities with our 7-step framework, so that schools can earn an award for their watershed stewardship and learning. This document can be adopted for other rearing programs, such as U.S. Fish and Wildlife's Salmon in the Classroom program. NWF also applies for grants in order to engage several schools new to Fish Eggs to Fry or in need of more assistance by providing them with training and equipment needed to participate, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. We also collaborate with ODFW on egg requests and reporting. So we see those forms when schools submit them, and we often advise ODFW on what questions should be asked in those requests and reports. So this is the audit, action plan, and appendix. Again, I'll share that in a few minutes. It's being updated into a new template this spring, but the current version is available on the Steelheaders website. I'll talk more about a few of these steps listed here. This drawing on the right is an eco code from Sato Elementary. An eco code is just a mission statement displaying a commitment to sustainability, usually related to a specific eco schools pathway, which is often a creative or artistic piece or of some sort, like this acrostic poem about raising salmon. So does anyone actually use this document of ours, the audit and action plan and appendix? The answer is yes. These are the schools recognized in Oregon as earning an Eco School Award for the Fish Eggs to Fry through the WOW pathway since 2017. So the green ones are also Oregon Green Schools. We know that schools will frequently use our appendix with its list of resources, even if they don't want to fill out the document or apply for an award. And that's okay too. We really want it to be a resource in their toolbox. With ODFW's Fish Eggs to Fry manual and curriculum being pretty outdated, this document really fills a role as kind of a how to get started guide, especially for new schools unfamiliar with the process of rearing and all the specifics that go into it. One of the first steps in the audit and action plan is to create a salmon squad. So this can be the same thing as your eco action team, your green team, etc. Whoever is involved with rearing, and ideally you'll have diverse representation from students, staff, partners, volunteers, or parents. So this salmon squad here is from Burwood Elementary and Sandy. They actually serenaded me with a salmon song when I came to give a classroom presentation, which was super cute. And here is a typical rearing timeline. So spring Chinook are from the Clackamas or Sandy hatcheries. They are reared in the fall. And rainbow trout are from a hatchery in Albany, are reared in the winter. This year, egg delivery was mid-November to late January. Classrooms raise the eggs for several weeks until they hatch and develop as alevin, feeding off a yolk sac that has their food supply in it. They start to grow stronger and they start doing the wiggly dance, and then eventually they'll begin to swim around in the tank. When the fry are buttoned up and have little of their sac left, they're ready to be released into local waterways. The biggest difference with release sites is that salmon go into streams and rivers while trout go into lakes and ponds. These pictures here are of rainbow trout, which develop faster than salmon. You may have salmon for up to 2 months rather than 4 to 6 weeks like trout. An important part of the rearing process is maintaining the health of an aquarium through water quality monitoring, which provides an excellent hands-on opportunity for science and math. A barrier to participating in Fish Eggs to Fry is often the equipment needed. It can be quite expensive. The last time I bought tanks was about 2 years ago, and they were about $650 there. And by tanks, it's a tank kit or an aquarium kit. So I imagine that that price has gone up. ODFW gets their aquarium kits from Premium Aquarium in Salem, which schools can also call and get the same ODFW discount price. And that's where National Wildlife Federation, where I purchased my tanks from too. You can always hunt down the supplies individually online and save quite a bit of money that way if you have the time and know what you're looking for. Usually it's the chiller, that refrigerator that keeps the water cold. That can be the spendy part. And then of course, water quality testing supplies are recommended, even if it's just basic pH test strips, which are usually pretty inexpensive. Our audit and action plan and appendix shares a lot of this info in it. ODFW will sometimes have aquarium kits available for schools to borrow, but they usually go fast. So you have to express your interest early. And then NWF or the steelheaders also sometimes have equipment to lend to schools, or we will purchase them for schools to have permanently, depending on our current grant funding. Fry release events are always an exciting highlight for students. Oftentimes, the students step outside of the classroom to go on field trips and get to experience various education stations like macroinvertebrates, water quality sampling, and nature walks. And of course, they also take turns releasing fry from buckets or cups. Karis Elementary here on the left had students write wishes for fishes, and then they burnt them in a ceremonial campfire where they extinguished the flames with their aquarium water after removing their fry, of course, for this kind of full circle moment, which was fun. Educators can also record the release and have students watch later too, is another option, which took place during COVID, of course. So how did Fish Eggs to Fry go this year during COVID, speaking of? Well, we still had schools participating with many educators rearing at home, like I did. This is my tank here that my nieces helped me decorate with Ranger Rick and the fish stickers on the windows and whatnot. The steelheaders also had grant funding from PGE that allowed us to purchase GoPros, which we lent out to interested educators so that they could record tank activity and also the release. Our AmeriCorps member, Christina, created some instructions and set up a Fish Eggs to Fry YouTube channel. We also added various distance learning resources to the Steelheaders webpage. Christina also adapted one of our classroom presentations on Gyotaku or fish prints to be a virtual experience by creating a how-to video. I created a school dawn salmon craft. Jonathan Cox at ODFW, he live streamed his tank at the Clackamas office, which was featured on the ODFW website, and additional educational videos were created in other parts of the state with various partners like Salmon Watch. This is the Fish Eggs to Fry YouTube channel, which I mentioned that Christina set up. It's kid friendly, but it can be viewed by the public. Any Fish Eggs to Fry school can post to this. What was nice about this was that schools that decided they didn't want to participate this year due to COVID, they could still tune in to this channel and feel like their students could experience the magic of the salmon life cycle from home. So Sherwood Middle School and Quatama Elementary were rock stars this year and posted dozens of videos that you should go on there and check out. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention our current grants. We have funding from NOAA BWET and Spirit Mountain Community Fund through the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. That is allowing us to work with 5 Title I elementary schools from now through spring 2022. I'm actually still seeking one more school, maybe 2. So if you know any schools that you think would be interested in committing, let me know. It needs to be 2nd through 5th grade classrooms. These schools will receive a seed grant, educator stipends, aquarium equipment, and training. This photo is from a couple years back at Springwater Environmental Sciences School, where we collaborated with Grand Ronde tribal members on a classroom presentation, and we hope to do that again this year. Speaking of presentations, these are our classroom activities. Typically are reserved for our seed grant schools, but at times we've opened them up to other interested schools or prioritized actively engaged eco schools and those that we have a relationship with. This really is an area where we just don't currently have the capacity to meet the demand for in-person presentations. But with COVID this year and transitioning to virtual presentations, this is an area where we're hoping to grow by perhaps training volunteers to facilitate activities in the future. All right, I know that was a lot in a short amount of time, so please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or want to learn more. And again, I'll add a couple links to the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morgan. That was awesome. And I loved seeing all those photos, and it just looked like a lot of fun. Next up, we have Dr. Jamie Rapowski from Metro's Waste Prevention and Environmental Services Education team, who will share techniques used to pivot from in-person outreach to distance learning education through video production and engaging virtual visits.
All right, well, thank you for inviting me all into your space. Right now, do you see my first slide? Just making sure it went through. Okay.
It looks like it's not in slideshow mode.
I'm going to keep it like this so I can move things around. So
perfect.
All right, so yes, my name is Dr. Jamie Rapowski. I'm with the Metro Regional Government in the Waste Prevention and Environmental Services team. So before COVID, obviously we were very much involved in doing school-based education. We were offering many different services, both the classrooms to large group school activities. We did some outreach to green teams. We did outreach to outdoor school. And obviously this really changed when we all were sent home last March. So we sort of had to have this big COVID pivot. Within our education team, we immediately went into looking into what is the research on how do you do environmental education in a distance or online mode. This included learning about how to make videos, different types of production, different types of lighting, backgrounds, how to make it so that it's really accessible. And so by last Earth Day, we started the Metro YouTube page again. It had been sort of dormant for about 5 years, and started being able to produce these videos and offering resources. So during this time, we came up with sort of our distance learning model. Obviously, we definitely knew from the research we needed to make sure each of the ones we promote are age appropriate for each range. And we're, again, like with Oregon Screen Schools and the National Wildlife Federation, we want to make sure we are hitting the learning standards so that it's an easy click and go for teachers. We knew we had to be really dynamic. We're competing with video games, cat videos. We need to keep people's attention so that they would actually watch the video and actually be interested in a whole series. We did some research on how to make it accessible. We had reached out to educators to find out what platforms they were using. We definitely know that YouTube can go south very fast. And so we have not only on the YouTube page, we also put our videos on our government page, so that if someone thought that their youth might be too distracted on YouTube, you can watch it where the video is right there. We also really focused on what is very COVID friendly. What can we do when we're sort of at home, we're not able to be with each other? And we didn't want to make it that it was hard to do any post activities. So most of our activities were things that can be done at home for low or no cost. And I encourage people to get out into their neighborhood in a very safe way. We also took this moment to really look at our programming and saying, well, if we have to redo this for videos, how can we make it more multicultural, more inclusive? And so we definitely had time to be able to look into how can we start addressing social justice, not only about climate change, but also about waste management. And also looking at how can we promote youth voices, even when we're so far apart. So we created our current distance learning website that over the time, we've definitely had to update because as more and more videos went on, we started lagging more and more. So that we have now one landing page that connects you to all of our online resources. So each month we update sort of our menu, which will show not only things for elementary or secondary or community, but also our natural gardening. So you might want to come here and be like, hey, I'm looking for something for my second graders, but you know what? I'm also interested in how to reseed my lawn. And so we have different ways that you can connect with things that you're interested in. We will always have a featured video each month, just in case you're interested in watching a short video. And we've updated a multicultural book recommendation guide. And this is for all different reading levels. We went through and tried to find what type of books were available at our public libraries that were looking at it from different points of view and definitely promoting more people of color. So besides having the videos, we also were reaching out to educators within our region to figure out how can we better serve them. For some of the teachers who are very interested in having these asynchronous activities, which is they would do it on their own. They would use our education guides to do post activities, but we were pretty much hands off. But there were several teachers we started getting, and it's getting bigger and bigger, where they would like us to come and actually have a visit and go deeper into some of these topics that we bring up in the videos. So for our elementary, we sort of focused on 4 different topics. We have our favorite, which is always composting with worms. We have sort of a modified version of our what used to be called resources and recycling, as we are sort of pushing to go beyond recycling. So now we have one called Resources and the Raven. We have our Earth Sort Choices offering, which is basically talks about the introduction to eco footprints, and our new one, which is bringing up social justice and food waste prevention, called Waste Management in the Compost Cycle. For secondary, they have their amazing climate change series, which has 7 videos, and they actually offer 4 visits to go deeper and deeper into even looking into what is the climate change effects here in our region. And they've also restarted the Secret Life of Our Stuff, which talks about product life cycles. Now, if you have ever been to a classroom nowadays, you may recognize this. It's sort of like the black screens of doom, where you don't know if you're actually connecting with your students. You don't know, it's not required for them to have their cameras on. Some may not be comfortable, but we started noticing we were not getting as much interaction either in the chat or people who wanted to be unmuting. So we really had to step back and go, okay, what else can we do to make it more interactive? So we went back to thinking about, well, when we teach. We focus on all 4 of the learning modalities, and that's moving, seeing, hearing, and touching. And previously, when we were in classrooms, we used all these modalities because everyone has a different way of learning. And that was a big problem. When you get into Zoom, you're just in that center area. So yes, if you're only a person who likes just to hear and see, yeah, you might really enjoy having all these Zoom meetings. But as many of us have experienced, after a while, you feel like you need something more. So we need to figure out, how do you do this when we're all looking at cameras? So one of the first things we started looking into, how can we get movement into it? And this are little things. Obviously, even with some of our meetings I've had with adults, encouraging people to stand up, move around. We've come up with a few games. We do scavenger hunts sometimes to get people just getting your heart going a little bit more. And I do this with the students too. So you were doing composting at Worms, or talking about recycling, and I go, you have 2 minutes to go find something in your kitchen that you think a worm would eat, or find something in your home that you think might end up in the garbage can. And so they all run and they come back and they're so excited to be able to show what they found. We also end up using our body techniques to be able to answer questions. So if we're asking the class, like, are we ready to move on? We've been using the fist to 5. And if you're 5, you're ready to go, you're covered. If you're like a fist or a 1, maybe we need to go back and review something. I also use body language to play games. So we will play like the recycle or not game on the website. And I will ask the students, okay, look at the object. If it is a garbage item, make a big X. If you think it's recyclable, give me a high 5. And so then you can start seeing, because by that time, some students actually really want to have their camera on to show what they think. And it also makes it less pressure on them instead of having to call on a student. If everyone's sort of giving their own idea, you can sort of feel like you're part of the group. Tactile is a little harder when it comes to being distance learning. But actually, when you start having them do these little scavenger hunts, they end up with something in their hand. And so then we can start going into, well, maybe let's talk about what natural resource that came from. Or if now with some of the classes going back into hybrid, what if we can ask teachers to maybe bring in some dirt and think about, is this a healthy dirt? What does it feel like? Comparing different types of dirt even in their sort of separated areas. So this is one thing we're like, okay, we need to do a little bit better. How can we get this whole tactile thing in? And this is when we started thinking, let's use Jamboard. If you're not familiar, Jamboard is a free Google platform that you can actually have people go into it. And I'm going to give an example at the very end. All you will get the chance to try it. And I get to have it, it's all anonymous. And so you can definitely get a feeling for your class about how they feel. So I would give them the link in the chat and they could move these little posties to where they feel they are on this little spectrum. And they get the idea that there's, no one's going to make them feel bad if they're really low on the scale or high on the scale. And they start seeing that, wait a minute, we're all working together. And what's cool with this is you start feeling this feeling of collaboration, which is, again, really important for education, for that keeping the memories going and processing. This is an example the secondary have done with climate change, where they're both pulling in emotion, which again, with distance learning, we're not really mentioning emotion a lot. And so again, students are able to do it anonymously, or they can change their postie to put their name in it, and they're able to be honest about what they feel about climate change. And again, these are things where maybe a few weeks later, you can go back and say, do you feel better? Do you feel worse? How are you on the spectrum with emotions? What's also fun with Jamboard is you can move things. So we have set up some virtual waste audits to be able to move things around. You get to the point and be like, okay, does everyone agree? Or are there things that we want to talk about that we think should be in a different pile? This is one I've done with upper elementary. The slide only starts with the food life cycle and a few natural resources. And then over time, either I will ask them to tell me where to move something, or if they're older students, I give them access to move the items. And they start realizing everything that goes into that life cycle. It doesn't just show, the apple doesn't just show up on your hand. And we started talking about careers as well as, and there's people that are in a part of each side. This is one I've done with elementary, like kindergartners. We were talking about worms and what do you want to feed our worms? And they tell me what I should move on either side. And again, sometimes we get into a little bit of debate about like, okay, why do you think this? And it's really cool where they start feeling that their voices are being heard. Now to do these things, it's not the normal Googles. You have to go a little further to more. And so down here is our Jamboard areas. And another one I'm going to show next is Google Drawings. This is one we've had really good success in getting students to start becoming action-oriented. So in 2 of our upper elementary offerings, Earth Choices and the Waste Management and the Compost Cycle, we start talking to them about how, well, you can come up with all these ideas, but how do you go from an idea to an action to success? And so what in our education group, we really put together based on research is what we call the community-based eco-action steps. And this is based on research by Doug Mackenzie Moore and also based on the National Wildlife Federation's eco-action steps. And so we sort of condensed it into something that has, at least from my experience working with youth from first grade on, has always helped them get from the beginning to the end. And so what I will do is I'll start the Google Drawing with just one statement. And then I start asking them, what should we add in the next part? And what's amazing is that each class is different. Each class has certain things that they've noticed as benefits, either from our videos or from their life experiences. They all identify different barriers that they say are blocking them from making their action go through. And then they start feeling a little bit better when they have someone that they can trust, they know what they can do, and they know what the end goal is going to be. And so what I do at the end of the class is that we end up sending this to the teacher in case the class wants to talk a little bit more about it, or possibly make a copy of it and try it with a different action. So we've had so much success with this that we are looking at what are we doing next over the next few months. I am hoping by the end of this month, I will have a 2-part youth-focused video series that really just focuses on that. So I have an eco idea. And understanding how do you find something that's local, that's in your sphere of influence, and then how do you get it so you don't get stuck by these barriers. So we're hoping to have that on our YouTube page and on our distance learning page. We also realized that having kids stare at me or some of my other educators may not be the best way to do everything. So we are going into cartoons. So I've been working with a high school intern from Park Rose, and we are working on these little Metro Minutes with our character, Kamara. So she's going to be going through her community and finding out what are different eco actions her community is doing to reduce their garbage. We're hoping to have the first episode open later this week. And then for April, we are also offering to schools and youth groups a transfer station live webinar. We have about 7 sessions that we are booking, and multiple schools can come in at these times. And it'll start out with my colleague being there live right at the transfer station, looking at the trucks and the noise and the smell that's going on, and then transferring over to meet some of the amazing technicians at the Household Hazardous Waste Division and finding out what do they do on a normal day. These are about 30-minute presentations. And we're looking at, is this something that we need to do on a regular basis? And sometimes it's hard to get a whole class or safely get a whole class to a transfer station to see what's going on. So what I was going to quick show, and this is something that you don't have to do right away, but I'm going to give you a link for it. And because I want to be able to show you how to use a Jamboard. So I'm going to jump over here. This is an active Jamboard. If you've made your active Jamboard, you can go to share. And what you have to do is change this to change anyone with the link to an editor. So now I will copy this link and I'm going to go and put it in the chat. Okay, can't find the chat now. I will stop sharing. That will probably help it. There we go. So if you all want to jump in there, I will quick share my screen again and just show you where the Post-it note is. The Post-it is right here. So that's the wrong one. On the wrong page. Let's go to my work one. Okay, there we go. So Post-its are right here. You can write something like, what is something that you've learned today? What is something you plan on doing with this information? And you start noticing that there's all these little anonymous people showing up on the top. Again, when you work with youth, sometimes you do have to set some rules for this because they could delete things, they could move things. So again, having a group that you share ideas. Once you write something in a Post-it, you can push save. Now, we can leave this open so you all can do this later. And then I can share it with the group and see the different ideas that people have, because I know we want to go to some of the questions and answers. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Jamie. That was just amazing to hear all the thought and everything that has gone into what you've been working on in the past year. And your team has just done a great job. So well done. Before we get to the Q&A, I'm just going to briefly share a little bit about what Washington County can offer. And so our Green Business Leaders Program offers free tools and advice to businesses, schools, and organizations. And we serve the entire county except for the city of Beaverton, which has their own program. So if your school is not in Washington County, know that all jurisdictions in the Portland metro area offer similar services. Okay, so if you're located outside of the Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County areas, I'd recommend that you reach out to your city or your county solid waste and recycling team to see what resources they offer. So our team of Green Business Advisors helps workplaces make incremental changes that will reduce waste with the following goals. Number one is to increase waste prevention and recovery, followed by reducing material life cycle impacts from typical operations, and then to deliver services equitably and to reduce barriers to participation by underserved and underrepresented business sectors. Despite some in-person restrictions, we are still providing our core services, which means we offer free advice and can answer really any question that you have about waste prevention. We're doing contactless resource deliveries, and we offer free internal collection bins for recycling and food scraps, as well as posters, decals, and a bunch of other resources to help your staff and students recycle right. And we do have a Green Business Award recognition program that I'll talk more about in a moment. So what does this typically look like at schools? Well, in many cases, we're helping schools get started. So that could be starting a recycling program or food scraps collection program. We can help start a green team or just kind of offer the support to give it a new life if that's necessary. We can also provide suggestions just to improve existing practices. And we engage students and staff by providing technical assistance, which includes identifying ways to reduce waste, to prevent waste, increase recycling, and reduce garbage. We can also help coordinate with your waste hauler to adjust your collection level so it fits your needs. And I am an Oregon Green Schools Regional Coordinator, so I can assist with that program as well. And we're excited to resume in-person outreach whenever that's appropriate. At that time, we'll be able to table at community or school events. But in the meantime, we're offering virtual consultations and presentations. And while we don't do any classroom presentations for students, we do offer a variety of presentations for school staff or parent groups. And our program has bilingual English-Spanish outreach staff, and we offer our outreach materials in multilingual format. Before COVID, one of the main ways we supported schools was through waste audits, and we would come on site with all of the supplies. We have a waste audit kit that has everything you need, and we would really lead the process with help from students and teachers. And while we can't do that right now, we are hopeful we'll be able to do it again at some point. And in the meantime, we can lend our waste sort kit out to any schools that want to take this on their own, and we can provide guidance virtually. We can also help with special projects like swapping out individual milk cartons for steel cow milk dispensers, which has been shown to reduce milk waste and container waste. And once events are happening, we can provide clear stream containers, which is the picture on the right side of your screen. And that's used at big events, or anywhere that you would require more waste collection than you typically offer. And food scraps are a priority material that we're focusing on due to an upcoming mandate that will require all food producers, including schools, to separate and compost their food scraps instead of putting them in the trash. So we can help schools get set up with food scraps collection. As I mentioned, everything from like the actual bins to working with your hauler. We can do the staff training, and then we can help troubleshoot any issues that come up. And we can also provide resources for food waste prevention or food donation if that's needed as well. And we do have a program for workplaces that want to be recognized for their sustainable practices, which is our Green Business Award. There are 2 levels of award based on the number of practices that you complete. And then if you get the award, you get this really cool plaque that's made by Resource Revival in Mosier, Oregon. So there's about 80 practices to choose from on the application, and they're split into the categories that you see on the screen. We have things like reduce, reuse, recycle, food waste measurement and donation. And the practices are really focused on your workplace's operations and facilities management. So while we don't have curriculum or anything school specific to accompany the application, in my experience, if you're working on some of these other programs, then you're likely already doing some of the practices on our list. So it's definitely worth checking out. And then I wanted to take a second to remind you all that you're awesome and you can make a difference. And I know this is a crazy year for many people, especially teachers, school staff, and parents. And we just want to recognize that and thank you for joining us today. And now I think we have a few more minutes left to answer some questions. So I have not been monitoring the chat, but I will see if we have anything there. And feel free if anybody has any questions now that they'd like to ask. There is a couple minutes. Okay, looking at the chat, it does not look like anybody had any questions. I was just curious, it looked like for all of you, are your programs available for all elementary and secondary schools, or is there any like particular age range that you're not able to serve?
Looking for Metro, we cover any elementary, middle, or high school in the 3-county region. One thing that COVID has allowed us to do, because we don't have to drive to places, is that we've also sort of been able to reach out to like a preschool, a Boy Scout troop, all virtually. So that's one thing that that's, I guess, the silver lining.
Awesome. What about you, Morgan?
We're K-12 for most of our programs throughout the state.
Awesome. And Sasha, how about Oregon Green Schools?
Most of our schools are elementary and middle schools, but we do K through 12.
Awesome. Well, I know we have about 2 minutes left. If there's any last minute questions. But if not, I just wanted to thank you all for attending. We will be sending out an email later this week with the PDFs of the presentations, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything. My team at Washington County is doing a bunch of public webinars for Earth Month, and so I really would encourage you to look at our website or Facebook page if you want to join any of those. And then I just wanted to give a big thank you to our interpreter, Leticia, as well as our presenters. So Sasha, Morgan, and Dr. Jamie, thank you so much for presenting. We really enjoyed having you today, and hope you guys have a great rest of your Earth Month.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.